Hi, I'm Alan Lowen, and I was here decades ago as Swami Anandrajan, and led many workshops here, and had a big long story with Osho in Pune and Oregon and in Europe. And in the late 80s, I returned to being Alan Lowen and created The Art of Being as the umbrella that covered everything that I have been offering for 50 years now. So here I am. I'm 80 years old. I think I'm young for my age. I hope so. And I still get total joy and fulfillment from leading Art of Being workshops.
Should we talk a little bit about the Art of Being?
Shall we have you introduce Maria?
Yeah, so the Art of Being, well, it's a path of personal growth, really. And I mean, you founded it about like a long time ago now, 40 years.
1988, around about 86 to 88, it kind of formed.
Yeah, and I joined it when I was quite young, in my early 20s. So like, this has really been a huge part of my life since then. And I think the reason that I always felt so at home with it is because it really moved me very, very deeply, and really changed me and healed me in many ways. As you know, I was I had quite a difficult childhood, so I was somebody who carries a lot of wounding, and the Art of Being was one of the things that were like really profound in helping me transform these things, befriend them, transform them, and that's why I just kept on coming back and back until I started really like discovering it more as my professional path as well. Yeah, and I really, I just love being able to give that to other people as well, you know, to enable this space where so much can happen, which is really, really individual for people, you know. There is, because what we do is self-exploration, so it's not a method, it's not a technique that we do, you know. We don't have a teaching modality, we don't try to get people from here to there with a goal or anything like that. You know, we all sort of turn up with our own story and our longings and our baggage, and then it's like this room of possibility where so much can start moving, and you can start playing with it and changing your perspective and really questioning, does that really still serve me, you know? And it's a very experimental space. And I think we, like, always find ways to invite and encourage people and support them to really grow in the ways that they want to grow, you know, and really like discover more of who they are and live that. And it's really beautiful because we do group work, and what I love about that is that in groups it's like there's so many people who will touch you, and they will bring out things in you that a one-on-one work doesn't do. If you have only one therapist, it's, you know, that can be very supportive, and I encourage people to do that as well. But the groups is like, there's definitely going to be somebody, or maybe even several people who touch something in you that you haven't yet explored in yourself. That's kind of like, wow, okay, I didn't know I was this, or, you know, I feel like this, and all these discoveries are really, it's kind of an adventurous space.
So you mentioned your childhood wounds, and I guess I should just make that point too, that the reason I needed to get into my own personal growth at the end of my 20s was because I carried a lot of baggage from a very tough childhood. I was put into an orphanage when I was 4 years old, and I was there for 4.5 years. It was run by Catholic nuns who were really heavy duty, and by the end of my 20s, I needed to start healing. And I won't go into all that happened, but I found my way to Osho, and during my years with him, those were really my healing years, even though almost from the moment I was with him, I was leading groups. I led the Samapan workshop in Pune, which means surrender. And when he gave me that name for my workshop, I knew he was he was telling me what my work was with myself. So, you know, over the years, surrender has been continuously very significant for me. And it's very woven into the art of being, because what I've recognized in all the years of working with people is that a lot of the pain and the difficulty and the insecurity and the fears and the anxieties come from our incapacity to let go when life is asking us to let go. We have a tendency to want to hold on. And so learning to surrender is, for me, it's about, it's a surrender of my own choosing. It's not somebody saying, hey, you got to surrender. But it's the recognition when life is asking me to let go, to be able to. And what matters is having the choice rather than being compelled to hold on any more than the compulsion to let go. It's the choice that matters. I spent the first 12 years of my life as a group leader sitting in the circle with people in an encounter group where all I did was sit there and protect the space so that people could open in it and find their own inspirations, respond to their own needs, and discover that being in a circle with other people could be a very powerful instrument for everybody's healing. And I went through a lot of healing myself in those years. And it took 12 years of sitting there for me to begin to bring process and structure into what I was doing. And the art of being really began after that first 12 years. It's not that the date mattered at the time, but it was 12 years into working with people that I began to explore bringing in processes that could be valuable for people. And I'd done a lot of study and a lot of training with different teachers and therapists, but essentially what I always wanted to do was to, through being there with the people in the group, to be able to tune into what could be valuable now for this person and for everybody here. And I began to use my own creativity to come up with all kinds of processes, and I created a special art of being meditation. And, you know, it owes a lot to Osho and what I experienced with him. And at the same time, I felt like I wanted the art of being to have its own meditation. And that's a very significant part of our workshops now, because every morning begins, virtually every morning, with the art of being meditation. And the workshops that we lead now, as always, as through all the years, they address the really significant themes in people's lives. So they deal with our capacity to be friendly with our own feelings, with our own energies, to be in a deep oneness with our own male, female nature. A lot of the work involves healing the wounds that people have brought from their past, but not in a therapeutic way. It's more like people learn a way of living that naturally brings healing to the stuff that they carry from the past. So yeah, sexuality is an important theme. Death is a very important theme, and we lead a workshop called The Universal Experience, an intimate encounter with your own death. It's a 3-day workshop. It's the most popular of our short workshops, and it's very experiential. We're not really into lecturing and giving people intellectual food. We're really very much about helping people to come out of their minds, to let go of the thinking stuff so that they can find their way into their full emotional, energetic, heart and soul being. So soul is another theme that is very important for us, that people can have a connection with the infinite mystery. And for me, the soul it's like a bridge between our being and the infinite. And to be able to live with a sense of how the infinite is playing into our everyday being has a very transformative effect on how we live our lives. So that's a very important aspect. Intimate relationship, our workshop Love, Sex and Shadows for couples is really addressing the stories, the themes, the issues that couples inevitably face in their relationships. So my voice is getting a little husky. I'm going to pass this over to Maria again. I can have a drink of water.
Yeah, hearing you speak, I think I realized that, the wounding is one reason why people come to our workshops, but the other reason I think is, what I hear often is that they're sort of like looking for just something more, they just want something more out of life that they don't find in the world out there, and that's why they come to us. And what we don't give people like, here's the thing and now your life will be amazing. But I think obviously that's not necessary, because people find this gradually in themselves, that's they discover how magical they are, really. It's like all we do is really help create a space where they can just get in touch with something that's deeper in themselves and deeper, and from there they discover that they're just way more than they thought they were. And that's why the connections between people in our workshops is also, I find it very moving. It's like how much they give to each other, especially in the taste workshop last year as well. That was, for the team, for us as a team, it was very moving to see how generous they were with each other and like really enabling each other to go very, very deep, which they wanted to.
Yeah, Maria's talking about the workshop that we're going to be leading here, A Taste of the Art of Being. And what you just said, it reminds me of something that I said to Amalin a few days ago, that, I think a taste of the art of being is in a way a misnomer, because a taste sounds like a sampler. And at the same time that this workshop is very user-friendly for people who, even if they've never been to a workshop in their life, the simple fact is that people can't help finding themselves diving in. So I found myself wanting to rename it A Dive into the Art of Being. But we just recognize that for some people a taste is enough, and for a lot of people they really, once they just tune in with it and feel comfortable in the ambience, they really love to dive in. And that's what made last year such a rich experience.
Yeah, it kind of really depends on how much you want to engage with the processes and how deeply you allow them to touch you. And if you have a big openness or maybe already a lot of experience, then they can be quite powerful, And I think there's something quite self-regulating about it. If you're fairly new and you haven't done this sort of thing, then there's just something in the body, mind, energy system that will let you do the processes very gently, not like this, but rather just sort of on the level that works for you. It's quite self-regulating.
One of the things I have to address in Art of Being workshops is the music. I have spent 50 years gathering music and selecting pieces that are appropriate accompaniments that enable people to go that much deeper. And it's been it's just been like a special Alan thing and a Rajen thing to have sought out music, and I've often been really amazed at the way suddenly a piece of music has just appeared out of nowhere that I'm looking for. It's as though the mystery out there is appreciating my regard for music and saying, okay, here's what you need. And the richest gift that I have received in the musical realm in the past few years is Maria, because she is an awesome DJ. You know, people have loved my music for 40 years, but now I hand a lot over to Maria because she just finds spectacularly good new music. So, you know, I have my 40, 50-year-old repertoire, and there are many, many pieces in there that I wouldn't want to change, we wouldn't want to change. But it's such a joy for me to have you seeking out and finding these incredible pieces of music, whether they're for dancing or for rituals or for sitting in, you know, a silent space where one is just pervaded by the music. I love what you do with music.
Yeah, I think the reason we both have such a deep love for music, and we use it very, I don't know, in very deep ways, I guess, in the workshops, is because music's like the third teacher in the room, you know. And the reason is, I think, you know, music can really get you into a space where you're experiencing and you're getting in touch with all of your feeling realm inside you, without, you know, all the mind stuff and all the words and the concepts and our stories and our histories and the things we think about ourselves. Music kind of bypasses that and kind of really gets you and touches you and moves you much more directly. And yeah, so that's why I use it so much, and you use it so much. It's quite important. You know, we talk a lot about the Art of Being, but still often people, they read on our website and they're like, but what actually happens? You know, what do you do? What do you do? So what do you teach about our sexuality work, for example? Like, is it white tantra? It's not that. So, you know, we don't do techniques. We don't do that sort of stuff. We do have, the processes we have are often in twos or in little family groups, you know. We work with the group dynamics.
Or threes or fours or
yeah,
sixes.
any number constellation depends on the process. And often we have processes where each person sort of gets their own personal round to explore something. So that's quite individual then, what they explore. It depends on what they bring, what it is that's moving in them at that moment, and the other people support them in that.
Yeah, I want to clarify that it's not just that the workshops happen in a kind of haphazard way. The workshops that have been running for years, like the Body, Heart and Soul workshops, Love, Sex and Shadows, the Universal Experience, they're very well structured, and they're structured with processes that we've created and enhanced over the years. Every time we lead a workshop, we're looking at how can we make this deeper, more valuable, richer for the participants. So there is a structure, and we have a certain flexibility that allows for the spontaneous, the improvised, the unexpected. And for me, it's always been so that the most valuable moments for people in their own personal opening and awakening are unprogrammed. When people are trying to get somewhere, trying to do something, all they are is they're trying. It's when suddenly something happens that takes them by surprise that they can have that aha experience that opens them to what for me is the essence of the art of being, which is the magic and the miracle of being here now, of coming into the present, not just in a superficial way, but when my way of being here is an integrated being that includes everything about me, my body energies, my feelings, my sexuality, my heart, my soul awareness. It's all playing into my being here now. For me, that's the essence, and always has been. It's what I spent those years practicing with Osho, and I thank him for that.
Yeah, and I think what we do when we design things, or we design a sequence of a workshop, is to really have that in mind, to see like what can help people and what can invite them to come to this space in themselves, you know, to open that place where they can feel exactly how you just described. And of course there are things that you'll recognize, you know, there are elements. I think the work is a lot of fusion of many different things you find in the human potential movement. I mean, you'll sometimes have exercises that you remind you a little bit of like Gestalt exercises, or a bit systemic, or a fusion of something that's kind of new, you know, and then the active meditations that we have. And your encounter work, of course, which flows into the circle work a lot, you know. And or we have trance journeys sometimes, you know, where we guide people into something where they're on their own in a space, and they regress, for example, into the past or into a special theme that they have. So there's many different little processes and exercises, actually big and small, sometimes in smaller constellations and sometimes big. And then, of course, another thing is that I think an important part of our work is always humor. You know, it's like we always make space. We make space for laughter and playfulness and integration, you know. You have to have that, that it's such an important part of life, and it belongs in workshops as well.
Yeah, and you know, about the presence, be here now, being the essence of the art of being, at the same time that is so, there's never, for me, and I'm sure it's so, I know it's so for you too, there's never trying to get people there. All that the art of being offers is a space in which magic can happen. And I just think we've become pretty good at creating those spaces and those opportunities. And it makes it, in a way, it's always been exciting and relaxing from a space of kind of trusting for me, that I don't have to try to get people anywhere. What I've become really good at is creating the space where people can happen, where something can happen for them. What happens, that's where I love the surprises.
Yeah, so this special circle work that you do, where this can especially happen, that's probably one of the most unique things about this work. This work that you create, where there's an open circle and any interaction can take place in a way. You know, it's very experimental, and then what occasionally happens is that you have an impulse when somebody shares something or comes out with something. You have an impulse, and you invite them to do something, and it's almost like bit by bit, like a really like personalized, tailored process evolves for them that you create on the spot. I don't know many people, I'm not sure I know anybody who, it's quite a rare talent that you have, that you make a special process for that person in that moment. And this is very, very powerful.
You know, I think that's what the first 12 years for me were about. Sitting there in the circle, learning this. It reminds me of one of the stories that Osho used to tell about the disciple who he wanted to be an artist, painting bamboo, something like that, and I can't remember the details, but the master said, go to the forest and sit with the bamboos. And after a few years, the disciple came back, and the master said, you're not ready yet, go back for another 7 years. And the disciple had to just keep on going and being in the forest until something happened, and he was one with the bamboos, and then he could paint the bamboo. And I feel like this 12 years of just sitting there with people was me sitting in the bamboo forest, becoming one with the bamboo.
And what I find so incredible about it is that it's not just strong for the person who is directly involved or the center of attention. It always feels like there's this whole field and we're all in it, you know, and we're all like breathing and feeling with what's going on. And I think I've had some of, in my personal history, back in the day when I was a participant, I think I had some of my strongest experiences just witnessing what other people were going through, you know, because it was like a catalyst for my own development, you know, to see somebody go through this and sometimes identifying, sometimes not, you know, it really had a deep meaning for me often what was going on. And then out of that, it felt like I had changed just through being there and being part of it, you know, not even directly involved, not even saying anything, but just feeling the whole process from the beginning to the end, because so much is happening.
Yeah, I guess that's what I mean when I say, you know, when people sit in the circle together, they're just really good for each other. Because, you know, when somebody really touches something deep, it resonates in so many other people, and they're carried into that opening in themselves to what has been touched in this, or is being touched in this one person.
Yeah.
I'm also, I love what you bring to the workshops, because you're also really creative, and one of the things I really appreciate about how you are in the group is your eye for detail. Like you've sometimes teased me that I'm a bit autistic. Well, it's debatable, but you do have an incredible eye for details that I, in my way of being present with people, don't notice. And you have a way of catching these details, and what you've done since you joined the Art of Being is you've become really adept at yourself creating beautiful processes that address those details. So it's not just me. I love what you're doing too.
Well, it's kind of the spirit of our workshops, you know, that we don't just like do the program, you know. In most workshops, if at all possible, but mostly it's possible, we have that, or we make the flexibility that we are always constantly tuning in and observing where are people at, you know, what are they going through, what do they need, and so on. And we're very responsive to that. And that means sometimes we make changes to the program if we feel that it's needed in the group, you know, when there's something comes up that feels like, the next thing we had planned doesn't cover that well. We want to give them something else.
That's what you're really good at. You've brought in some really beautiful changes to structures and processes just from your eye for detail. And perhaps it's also because, you know, these workshops that I've been leading for 20, 30 years, I get into a kind of a groove, and the groove works. And so it needs your young, fresh eyes to come in and say, hey, the groove is good, but how about this?
Yeah, but I have seen you, and I've seen you in workshops that have had a set program for years, where you suddenly in the break go like, I'm going to get rid of this core process. I've seen you, and the whole team completely shocked. It's like, what? But this is the main process of the workshop. It's like, no, I've had an inspiration, and the inspiration always comes from the group, you know, from like what is moving in that moment, you know, what's come up, what has surfaced. And if something unusual has surfaced that is not in line with this, then you have no fear of letting go of even a core process, if necessary, and then giving them what feels like they need.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. The circle of people, whoever, the participants are my teachers. It's always been that way. And I love this because where it puts me is in the place of being a learner. And that's how I feel. The moment I walk into the group, I'm learning. It's like, I'm here with you, teach me. What do I need to give you? What do I need to address here? And the processes, the structures that are in place, simply help people to give me what I need that I can give them more. It's a very symbiotic relationship. And I know they come because they want to learn. I lead because I love learning. I would call myself, rather than a teacher, I'd say I'm a learning adept. Maybe a learning addict too.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And you know, it's like Zen mind, beginner's mind. The most beautiful place to be is always at the beginning. And that's where I feel I am. You know, when it doesn't matter, you know, the group can be in the 5th of a 7-day workshop, and still, I'm always at the beginning. The moment I'm here with you, I'm at the beginning of this moment, of what can happen here now. This is why, you know, people say to me, how can you not be bored after leading groups for 50 years? And how can I be bored when always what is happening now has never happened before? So here I am in the presence of the unknown. That cannot be boring.
And that's true. The unknown is an important part in the workshops.
And the other is, you know, have to quote Osho again, the unknowable. Mm-hmm. That's even more magical. Mm. You know, that which we can't put into words. It's funny, because sometimes I have this little thing going on in me while I'm leading the group. It's like people are in a process, it's all happening beautifully, and there's this little voice inside saying, there's something else happening here. And it's this something else that is like the magic and the mystery that happens through this thing that we're doing. It's the something else that matters. And that's, for me, what I mean by the unknowable, Osho's unknowable. It's here. It's what it's all about.
Yeah, and it's not like we directly teach that. We don't even often talk about it at all. But I think people on some level are aware and they experience that, and it's something very precious to take into their lives, into their daily lives. Because ultimately life is unknowable. You know, and we often struggle because we want to know where it's going. We want to understand it, you know, our issues, and where does this dysfunction come from, and why can't I solve it? And it's like there's this whole, the mind always tries to put it into boxes, and this is quite a limiting thing. And I think it separates us from this magic, you know. That's why people are like, why isn't there something, where's the more, where's the magic, you know? And they experience this space, and even though we don't say, hey, we don't know, we don't say it, but the way we lead our workshops ultimately, of course, is also unknowable. We don't know at the beginning how exactly it's going to unfold. you know.
You know, what that makes me aware of is it's something to do with the universal experience, the exploration of one's own death. That for some people, sadly, it's only when they come to the final breath of their life that they open to the unknowable. And I realize that what we're about is inspiring people to discover the unknowable way earlier than the last breath of their life. Somebody said, we have to practice this over and over again in our lives in order to get it right just once. And that we have to practice over and over again is that letting go into the unknown, the unknowable. I love that.
And of course we give people like things to help them and support them in that, you know. And I think that one of the ways that we do that is like that we often talk about making mistakes, you know, that it's okay to make mistakes and not beat yourself up about it. In our workshops as well, you know, you don't necessarily have to do it the right way. If you do the process and maybe it turns out you did it the wrong way, it's okay. And there's always this encouragement to trust and have courage, you know, and just like have the experience rather than doing it right. That's not what we're about. And I think these things that people gradually, this trust and the courage that grows in them, you know, also in relation to other people and their connection with others, you know, it gradually becomes more and more authentic and intimate with each other. And it's because they start trusting this not knowing bit by bit. And that's what we're about in our little processes, in our little guided things, and yeah.
There's Osho again. Not knowing is the most intimate.
We say that a lot. we say that quite a lot. Yeah.
So much in there.
Uh-huh.
I don't know how long it was.
Probably quite long, huh?
It's very, very beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes, there's so much also like beyond your work to just listen to and let sink in. So this is of great value. I just thought about because I will re-watch it, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Check it out, and just for like a in a nutshell taste of being. Just, I mean, there will be something in there, just so that we have it in a little shorter way. So just for the case.
Yeah, in a nutshell, like the taste of
Oh,
workshop.
a taste.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, give me a moment.
In a nutshell, it's not really our thing, huh? Okay.
I wish I had all the things I've written about it in the past days. I've spent so much time.
But I mean,
writing
there
about
can be an edit, and we can also do two runs. If we need two goes, then we can do 2 goes.
And it can be super open
Yeah.
explained.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it doesn't have to be.
yeah. Yeah, should we? I think we should just start, and then we can review afterwards and see. And maybe it's already good enough to make an edit out of that, or if not, then we can do it again, I guess. Is that okay?
Well, in essence, a taste of the art of being is an opportunity for people to discover what the art of being is. And it sometimes, it has such an inviting quality, the way it is designed, that it often becomes more of a diving in deep. And the diving in is into discovering, reconciling, healing, celebrating the essence of one's own being.
Yeah, and I think it's appealing to those people who feel like they're on a journey somehow, you know. Maybe this summer they want to give themselves a little bit something that really can be like a catalyst for them, you know, something that stimulates them and touches them and brings things to the surface. Because I think what we do in our work is often quite interactive. So this workshop will also have a lot of sort of interactive elements to them, and also an opportunity to get like much deeper in touch with what's really going on for you right now.
It really is a synthesis of many aspects of the art of being. The art of being meditation, which in itself is a microcosm of all that the art of being is about, is a very significant part of it. And the circle work is a beautiful opportunity for people to go deep into themselves and to engage with us in ways that can be very valuable for them. And there are the processes where they're engaging with each other, and these have their own rich elements to them. And of course there's the music and the dancing and the sitting silently and the trance journeys. It's a very deep, rich melting pot of the art of being.
Mm-hmm. And it's designed as a journey, so it's kind of like, you know, it takes you step by step, sort of like deeper in touch with what's really significant for you. And then there's a lot of space for you to work through things and discover things, and who knows, maybe healing can happen. There was a lot of that last year as well.
So how can we say this really shortly?
Hast du eine Idee?
No, I just thought about if I'm standing in front of you and I'm curious to be there and you know, it's just what's the offering? Right? And I mean, you told it several times now in a different, but if you put it in two sentences, it's what do I come for? You know, what's your offering for me when I'm curious to come to you?
Well, what I want a taste of the art of being to offer you is the opportunity for you to really come into a very whole celebration of yourself that includes healing and reconciliation and opening and awakening, and where you are not only celebrating your whole being, but you're doing it with a sense of awareness of that which is beyond you, playing into your here and now life.
Yeah.
Okay?
That's great.